met these two boys. They were under the age of 18 and they had been held in remand almost a year. They were accused of murder and illegal possession of firearms. Our justice system is deeply flawed. We found that we are more gracious to when you're guilty and rich than when you're poor and innocent. I made the mistake of meeting the people that we serve. That was the biggest mistake I made. Because
now your clients now.
Yes, because you meet people and it changes you. But I think Jesus is very particular in the examples he uses.
Yeah.
He doesn't mince his words. He doesn't use parables or stories or mention people by chance.
Yeah.
He specifically said, when I was in prison, you did not visit me.
Yeah.
And I think he sees them and he knows them. And so every time I go to prison, I get really excited that I get to see him 20 times. If I interview 20 people, I've seen him 20 times a day. I think the message currently in Christian spaces is very, we've been encouraged to look at our lives like a microscope. So you only look at yourself. Every detail of your life your prayer request is full of yourself. When I started, I trusted people and I gave them my personal number. In prison, and I found out that my number is being sold. There's a business.
Oh my gosh.
So a friend of mine went to this church before me.
Yeah.
And she took a picture and she was like, "You'll really like this church. I'm telling you, they have fairy lights on stage." They're like, "This is really your church. They have fairy lights on stage." And that's the reason why I went to renewal. Love him with all your heart. I think that's the beginning place. Wow. Love him with all your heart. And I promise you, you will not be able to look at anything that is happening in the world and not want to do anything about it.
Yo, what's up, good people, man? First, thank you so much for always joining us for the DJ Moz Podcast. We do not take it for granted, man. I'm always excited to be able to have wonderful guests joining me for conversations. People who are known, other people who are not known, but they are known in their circles. And, just being able to have genuine, honest conversations with them. So, man, as you continue digging in and enjoying the podcast, we'd like to encourage you to go ahead and support us, man. This is only possible through your love and through your support. Pray for us, talk about us, but then also you can go ahead and, go a step further and support us financially. And you can do that by, our account number and the till number. They're all, is it till number? No, the pay bill number and the account numbers you call up. Please do go ahead and support us financially, because this encourages us. It allows us to be able to pay our bills and to continue hooking you up with more great content. Sindio, thank you so much for your love. In the meantime, man, let's continue in our conversations today hapa hivi on the DJ Moz Podcast.
So I started off in Ngong, like a small town called Vet.
I know Vet.
Yeah. Most people don't, they just know Ngong. So I grew up in Vet for a little while there, and then I was shipped off to live with my grandma in a small Maasai town called Tok Tok.
Oh, wow.
It's like near Mount Kilimanjaro, very close to Amboseli.
Yeah.
It sounds very romantic as I'm explaining it. It wasn't that when I was young.
I want to go there.
Yeah, I was like, oh no. But yeah, from school bus to walking to school, that was a little bit of a shift, but I survived.
Well, how long was the distance you needed to try to cover going to school?
It sounds like my parents. I'm like, and I walked without shoes. No, I walked. You know how when they're telling you how they went to school, they're like, and I didn't eat for 3 days.
Yes. Yeah.
It wasn't that far, but I guess from someone that came from Nairobi, I was like, we are walking.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was the impact of that move for you from now, from Vet going to live in your grandma?
In my grandma.
Yeah.
Oh, I think I really enjoyed it, actually. I lived with let me see, maybe 4 other cousins.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
I think we were 4 or 5.
Age mates.
Yeah. For whatever reason, for that season, everyone was at my grandma's house, and it was a very, very good time.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun playing. Some of us were in the same school. Yeah, it was wonderful.
That's what's up.
And living with I think it's different. How your parents treat you and how your grandparents treat you.
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, it's different.
So is your grandma kinder? Or was she more strict?
She was less strict with like school stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe she's just like doesn't care about it.
Yeah.
But she was like more strict with like time, chores,
Yeah.
and stuff like eating.
Yes.
I really didn't like eating.
Yeah.
And I was always in trouble for not eating. I was always giving away my like, I didn't like porridge.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to like give it to the dog. And then I'd come back and I'm like, look, I finished. And then I was caught and it was bad. I was beaten. It was that whole thing.
Man.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Yeah. So I enjoyed living in Loitoktok. It's still one of my favorite places to be.
Yeah.
I go every Christmas.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
Do you guys ever wonder if maybe your parents and your aunts and uncles conspired to have you guys shipped and go live with your grandparents?
They could have. I think so. and we had... It's a very communal living.
Yeah.
So it's my grandma's house at the center.
Mm-hmm.
And then everyone's houses is surrounding it. So it's
is
still
it like a proper Ma size village setup? Yeah.
Yeah. It's not manyatas, but it's a proper Ma, like sort of communal living.
Yeah.
So it's all, we are all, till today, we are all like surrounding the like matriarchal home, and then everyone is just like around it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
so it's cool. Yeah.
I remember some of my best experiences was, so I was that kid who I'd close school on a Friday.
Yeah.
On Monday, first thing in the morning, I'm shipped off to Shags. But it used to suck, because I'm living Nai.
Yeah.
I want to be with my boys here.
Cool.
Yeah. But actually, my most memorable experiences are whenever I was sent off to go be with my grandma and my cousins, because we were all age mates.
Yeah.
So whether you're going to hunt, you're going to hunt together.
Right.
Whether
Yeah. Okay. Hunting is...
Oh, man.
wild.
This is before, I guess, maybe it was made illegal.
Okay.
But we used to do that. Like I remember, it was one of the things I used to look forward to, even if you don't get anything.
Yeah.
But just going into the forest, into the Abadeas.
Oh my God, we also have a forest.
Yeah.
Literally right behind our house.
And it's the same for us as well.
Yeah.
There's one time actually we went into the forest just after former President Moi had kicked out the farmers from, guys who used to farm in the forest. So he kicked them, all of them out.
Yeah.
Because of, they were messing up the forest. And so I remember we went into this like the villages, and they had like the biggest mbogas you've ever seen.
Wow.
Unfortunately, all the farmers had been kicked out, so they couldn't even go back and get their farm produce. And so we went home here with this, and we were small guys carrying these humongous cabbages.
Wow.
And in the process as well, I remember we went up to the water tank that serves now the community, the greater community. And when we climbed up to see, because they have a ladder, and like maybe 50 meters away from us was this herd of elephants.
Cool.
Cool.
Yeah, because
oh my gosh.
Actually, I also have a story about elephants.
Mm-hmm.
We used to have a lot of elephants that used to come to our compound.
Yeah.
Just because of Amboseli, and they used to move through the forest.
Yes.
And so when
guys as well in the Shamba.
Yeah. And so when they used to pass by the homestead, apparently they're afraid of fire and noise.
Mm-hmm.
So you stand outside and you light torches and you hit like
make noise,
sufurias and pans. Yeah. For like at 1 a.m. in the morning so that they don't get to the closer to the house.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was like accurate, but that's what used to happen.
I think I've seen a documentary with Nat Geo.
Yeah.
So there's some young people in Tanzania and in Kenya. I guess it's that border for like Amboseli, Mount Kilimanjaro.
Yeah.
And so because of the menace of elephants coming into the farm and eating the produce.
Yeah.
And to avoid the animal conflict.
Yeah.
What they would do is they started doing two things. One is to herding bees, farming bees.
Yes.
And the other one was actually 3. Fire.
Yeah.
And making noise with pans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it works.
It does.
Yeah. And I've seen elephants like very close to me. It's cool.
Like.
Because Amboseli has a huge population of elephants. Yeah. There are very many there.
So do you have, when you consider, I guess going to live with your grandparent was good. But what impact did that have for you now? You're not with your mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you're staying with your grandparents.
Yeah.
How's your relationship with your mom?
How did that change?
Yeah.
I think I now that I think about it, I've thought about it before, but it felt I think they didn't explain why they did it.
Yeah.
And I think that was difficult.
Yeah.
I think, I don't know if it was like just specifically for my parents, but there was an assumption that you don't need to explain that to your kids. You just like make decisions for them and they just have to like accept it. I think that was difficult for me. And I don't want to say cuddled when I was younger, but my parents were very nice to me and very kind.
Yeah.
And I got a lot of anything I wanted. I was like, they were very nice to me. And I think the difference of like other people are not that way. Some other people are just like more strict.
Yeah.
You have to like share and you not everything is yes.
Yeah.
So that was difficult. So because of that, I felt like it was like almost like a punishment. You brought me here to like, it's so different. No one says yes to me. I sound very spoiled. I was, but yeah, that was difficult for me to understand. I didn't question if they loved me.
Yeah.
I just was questioning why they didn't explain it to me. Because I like we were boys, we're cool. I trusted you. You should have just told me why.
Yeah.
I guess that was the question. Like, why didn't you just tell me why?
Yes.
Yeah.
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 And did you stay at your grandparents until even into high school?
I stayed for a while. No. They came back for me.
Okay.
And they told me like it was because of work that they needed to send me off. But they came back for me. I was very happy to be back home. But I remember when I came back, there was like I felt like conflicted because Nairobi changes very quickly.
Yeah.
Like the friends I had made other friends.
Yes.
I felt like I had made friends in Loitoktok.
And now you're coming back, they're like, hey, this girl is from
I had
Shags.
an accent. Oh no. Like
what kind of accent?
Because I speak this, my family speaks Ma.
Yeah.
So I was like, I sounded like a Maasai person and before I left I didn't and now I did.
Yeah.
So there are things like if I'm surprised, I make a certain sound and like, everyone was just like, where is that from?
Just humorous.
No. And I was like, what is that? And they were like, what is going on with you? So I had I remember, that's what I remember, everyone being like, you sound so different.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. And when I was in the school in Loitoktok, everyone was like, you sound so different.
Yes. So
it was like, I don't know, I was a confused child.
In high school, where did you go to high school?
I went to a private sister school. And,
wow, with the nuns?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, some of my teachers were nuns. It was just a school here in Nairobi. It was called Mount Lavena. Very small, very... I actually don't mind it now that I've had other horror stories. I think I was fine.
Yeah.
Like, I think our streams were called Lilies and Roses.
Oh, wow.
Like, very girly. Yeah, but I enjoyed high school, actually.
That's what's up.
I enjoyed high school, but maybe because I'm somewhat of a... Like, I just am a good student. Yes. So I think it's difficult for me not to enjoy school. Yeah.
So you enjoyed your time in?
Yeah. I'm the annoying person that's like, I've done my homework. I'm in class. I'm answering the question.
You are the people we would avoid.
Yeah.
You know, you'd always put your friends in trouble.
I wouldn't.
Why can't you be more like Waizeh and, you know, she's all you hanging out together. She's finished her homework.
I've finished. I'm so sorry, but I've finished my homework. Yeah. And I like class.
Yeah. I mean, and I ask all this because after high school, you went to law school.
I did.
You know, you went to study law.
Yeah.
And then you've gone through School of Law.
Yeah.
What got you there? Is that something that you always wanted to do?
Yeah. That question is always really interesting. I've never wanted to do anything else.
Wow.
Everyone in my family is always like, she never wanted to do anything else. I've never moved from I want to be a lawyer.
That's amazing.
From when I was maybe 6. And that's like, I just didn't want to do anything. I've never had a desire for any other, I guess, career path. And so when I finished high school, I was like, so no one is surprised, but I want to go to law school. Yeah. Which was interesting because I actually went to 2 different law schools. So I went to Catholic University and then went to University of Nairobi.
Did you finish at Catholic or did you do part of it in?
No, I did like my first year in Catholic University.
Yeah.
And then I went to UN.
Was it intentional? Was it a deliberate decision to change the universities?
So I think I initially, when I went to Catholic University, I think I was really impatient because when you want to join a public uni, you wait a little bit longer.
Yeah.
But I was like, I just want to be in school. I sound...
It's okay. It's who you are.
I was like, I just want to be in school.
Yeah.
And so I was like, let me go to Catholic uni.
Yeah.
And then when I was in Catholic uni, my family went through a really difficult time. My mom got really sick and very quickly passed when I was in Catholic uni.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Thank you. And yeah, it was just a decision. Financially, it just made sense for me to move to University of Nairobi.
Yeah.
Which was an interesting experience. It's actually a miraculous experience in and of itself.
Wow.
It was like a very, because you need to apply to it's called transfer of credits.
Yes.
From one university to the other so that I don't do my first year all over again.
Yeah.
And yeah, you need to have gotten B's and above in your grade. You apply for this commission.
Yeah.
And people sit on a board and decide whether they'll say yes or no.
Yeah.
And it has to be a unanimous yes.
Yeah.
And I remember one lecturer said no. And I had done this process for 3 months.
Oh, wow.
And just when I was about to start, she said no. And when I was picking my paper, I was crying my letter. And I went back to her office.
To ask her why.
And I was like, I need to talk to you. And she was like, I made my decision, whatever.
Yeah.
And I was crying at her desk. I'm like, I need to go to University of Nairobi. I need to go to law school.
Yeah.
I'm not doing my first year again. Here are my grades. I did so well.
Yeah.
And yeah, I persisted and she signed the okay again. She was like, okay, fine. And then was like, send me on my way. Yeah.
I'm glad she did.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
It was so... that process is, I don't know if it's easier now, but it was so annoying.
Wow.
It was, yeah.
Yeah. And what, is there anything that you think influenced your decision to want to get into law from when you were a young person, from the age of 6 years? I mean, that's pretty early.
Yeah.
I mean, which kid knows what, how many kids know what they want to do when they're 6 years old and they stick to it? Yeah.
Yeah. I guess from a really young age, I really enjoyed fairness. Maybe I didn't know the word justice.
Yeah.
But I was really big on fairness. And I think that's the only career that sounded like I could do that in that way.
Yeah.
But I just had interest in courts and judgments and all that world really fascinated me for a very long time. And nothing else piqued my interest. So I just really liked it. Yeah.
It's impressive, honestly, because when I was a kid, I remember being asked by my teacher, we would all be asked this question. So what do you want to do when you grow up?
Yeah.
And we were all like, doctors and lawyers and pilots and engineers. There's no option like a DJ.
Yeah.
But not many of us, ever stuck to what it is that we wanted to do.
Yeah.
But it's impressive that, what you had desired to do from such a young age, that it's something that you continued. And now you do something that's absolutely, for me, it's incredible what you do, I say.
Thank you.
I love the work that you do.
Yeah.
And so for guys who are watching or listening to this podcast, do you want to tell us what you do with this amazing organization that's called Ajar?
Yeah. Thank you. So Ajar is a legal aid organization.
Yes.
It's actually founded by a church that I attend called Renewal Church Nairobi. So there was, let me start by saying, should I say what we do first?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we are a legal aid organization that offers free legal representation to persons that are wrongfully accused and are held in remand.
Yeah.
So before anyone is sentenced, you're held in pretrial detention.
Yes.
So before you're sentenced, before your case is heard, if it's a criminal matter, you're held in remand or pretrial detention. So pretrial detention is or remand, as I think most people know it as. You're held there as you await trial.
Yeah.
So you're not meant to be there for a really long time because like people have a right of bail or bond.
Yeah.
Your matter should be heard fairly quickly and shouldn't take very long. But what we found is that people were there for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, where you're meant to, I think the longest it's suggested is 2 weeks. So from 2 weeks.
I was going to ask if is it not supposed to be 2 weeks?
Yeah. It's suggested to be 2 weeks.
Suggested.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Because they're saying the other factors that would cause that to change.
Yeah.
Like our courts are very overcrowded. No, we don't have enough magistrates.
Yes.
Just so many reasons that have kept people there for a really long time.
Yeah.
Reason that could be corrected, but reasons anyway.
Yeah.
So 2-3 years, 2 to 4 years. And yeah, we found that these people were being held there unjustly. So there's this term that we call criminalization of poverty. So people that are held there, excuse me, people that are held there are unjustly held there. They're innocent. They did not commit the crimes they've been charged with.
Yeah.
And yeah, they're just kept there for a really, really long time. So we take your matter, we represent you in court. So that's one of the things that we do. And then during COVID, we started paying bail. So we pay your bail, we partner with your loved ones, 20,000 shillings and below. We've paid bail for as low as 500, 1,000.
Yeah.
Like we met
for
this guy.
500 shillings.
Yeah, we met a young boy that was there for 500 bob. He'd been there for 3 months.
Wow.
But he was a street kid. He had no one to represent. And for you to pay bail, you need someone that has an ID. So if you don't know anyone, you just sort of stay there.
Yeah.
So we've paid for someone whose bail was 1,000 shillings and had been there for 6 months.
Yeah.
5,000, 2,000, 10,000, 20,000.
Yeah.
So we pay bail for them. And then we have a civic education day for the whole prison where we serve the larger prison community.
Yeah.
We train them how to self-represent, teach them what to do in court. How do you do it? What do you do?
Yeah.
We've done that in partnership with other organizations. I think recently we did like I don't know if you guys know about a moot court. A moot court is like a fake court.
Yeah.
And so they play pretend. And we have a magistrate and there's a prosecution and the defendant side.
Yeah.
And we did it in partnership with Justice Defenders, which was really cool because like they wore suits.
Yeah. And these are inmates.
Yeah, and they're remandees.
They're remandees,
yeah.
sorry.
So they wore suits and they were really good. And they gave their defense and they knew what they were doing and they cross-examined their witnesses. And it's really interesting when we do stuff like that because now we are like, we correct them, don't do that, don't say this.
Yeah.
This is what cross-examination looks like. This is how you answer as a witness, how you prepare for your submissions and stuff like that. So we do like stuff like that in prison, which is really cool. And we serve also people outside of prison. So most of the people held unjustly are from low-income areas. So we've tried to partner with social justice centers to train people what are your rights of an arrested person, what do you do before you get to remand? So how do we prevent also the influx of like, don't get to remand yet. When you're held in a police station, who do you call? What do you say?
Yeah.
So we've done that as well. But yeah, for the most part, our biggest project is court.
Yeah.
So the legal representation, litigation, that's like majority of our work.
Man, it's incredible what it is that you guys are doing. And I picked up on something where you've talked about criminalization of poverty. Maybe before we get into that, I want to ask you, what made you decide to join Ajar?
Yeah.
Yes.
So I was just sharing earlier that my story sounds very the same with things that when God has called you to do things, it's always like, this is not what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I really was like excited about corporate.
Yeah, because I was thinking, once you go into law, you have your sites
of money. Yeah. And so I was actually working for a law firm when I joined Ajar. And I was like, maybe I'll do conveyancing. I hear that has a lot of money. And so when I was in Kenya School of Law, I Kenya School of Law, for anyone that's done law school, it's like very gruesome. And that whole year, all you do is study.
Yes.
And so I had a discussion group that also started meeting on Sundays. And at that time, I hadn't joined Renewal.
Yeah.
So I was like, guys, I really need to go to church on Sunday morning, but we're here for a group discussion.
Yeah.
And a friend of mine was like, since the school is in Karen, they're like, there's this church that meets at 5 p.m. So after the discussion group, you could make your way to church. And I was like, yeah, maybe. And so when I was in uni, something to note with this discussion group, we started off like since we were in uni.
Yeah.
And I in my room, or like where in my hostel, I had like fairy lights. I really like fairy lights. So a friend of mine went to this church before me.
Yeah.
And she took a picture and she was like, you'll really like this church. I'm telling you, they have fairy lights on stage. They're like, this is really your church. They have fairy lights on stage. And that's the reason why I went to Renewal.
Oh my gosh.
So anytime, like when we moved to the new building, I was like, we need fairy lights.
Guys would be like, man, I moved to this church because it was so deep.
No.
The sermons, the worship team.
No.
It's fairy lights.
It's fairy lights. And I told Abby, who's one of the founders of Renewal, because she's the one who decided on the fairy lights.
Yeah.
I was really thankful for the fairy lights.
You know what? I'll never look down on anything the guys have put up. Yeah.
And so she sent me a picture and she's like, see, they have fairy lights.
Yeah.
And that's the only reason I went, actually.
That's one.
Because I was like, a church that has fairy lights? That sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
And so I met Chris Arnold, who's now a very good friend, and at that time the founder of Renewal. And he was like really passionate about the renewal of our city.
Yeah.
And we had just met. He was like, I want to start this like program that helps prisoners. And I was like, okay. But he was really passionate about it. And so we met this guy called Pete Oko. I don't know if you've heard of
I know
Pete.
Pete, yeah.
He runs Crime Sipoa.
Yes.
And his story is fascinating. Like, he was wrongfully accused of the murder of his wife, and he was sentenced for 18 years, and he had been in remand for 2 years. So a total of 20.
Yes.
He had been in committee, maximum prison, which is...
I met him actually when he was in committee.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
Yeah. He's now a very good friend of Ajar.
Yes.
And so I was like, what is this? And there was also another founder of Ajar called Gilbert. And I met this like group of people that were extremely passionate about justice.
Yeah.
And it was a side of law that I hadn't seen before.
Wow.
Where everyone was just like, when you're a lawyer, I think it's like, I could be wrong, but the reputation of law is very, we are very gray. We're not very black and white.
Yeah.
We don't really say the truth.
Here, shades of gray.
Yeah, we're shades of gray.
Yeah.
Everything is gray. Nothing is ever black or white. And this is where the money is. It's like a very prestigious profession. It just feels that way.
Yeah.
And I hadn't thought about it in a way that would serve others. It just had never been something for me.
Yeah.
And I joined them. And I was like, yeah, I could volunteer.
Yeah.
And I made the mistake of meeting the people that we serve. That was the biggest mistake I made. Because
now your clients now.
Yes, because you meet people and it changes you, right?
Wow.
Like, you see them, they're real people. They're no longer statistics or a work that we do.
Yeah.
And you meet their wives.
Is it okay if I ask you?
Yeah.
And I'm sorry for interjecting, but
that's okay.
I'm curious to find out, like, is there a particular case that
yeah,
that you handled and you're like, this Moz for me, this was a life-changing, case that I had to handle or situation that I had to handle.
Yeah.
That made me be like, this is what I want to do.
Yeah. So I volunteered for a while. When you're a volunteer, you're like in it, but you're a bit far away from it. So a little bit, when I stayed there for a while longer, we met these two boys. They were under the age of 18. So they were maybe 16, 17. And they had been held in remand for, when we met them, almost a year.
Yeah.
So when we go to prison, we have a one-on-one interview. So I sit on this side and there's a chair in front of me and people come and sit with us.
Yeah.
And I was with my colleague, she was called Wamboy at the time. And we met these two boys and they were really young. And when we are sitting with them, we have very limited time with you because prison has a system and they need to be somewhere at a specific time.
Wow.
So we never have a lot of time. It's always like, we need to ask you the right questions, and it's just very go, go, go. And they couldn't stop crying. And we were like, we're like, I'm so sorry you're crying, but I need you to tell me like the reason, the facts of your case. And so they started explaining it, and they were accused of murder and illegal possession of firearms. And I'm like, you're 16. Like, what do you mean? And so what happened is they collected bullet shells, that like used bullet shells when they were playing football somewhere, and they made them into necklaces, as teenage boys would do. And they made them into necklaces, and they posted it online. And they were like, yeah, we're cool, and we have necklaces with bullet shells. And there was a murder around their area. So they lived in Madare area. And there was a murder around that place. And so a police officer, I think, saw their posts online, and they were then arrested. So they lived in like a small structure next to their mom. So they're from single mom households. And they because they were teenagers, their mom had put them up in like a structure, just the two of them. So the police came to their home, they were arrested, and they were taken to remand. And their charges was murder and possession of firearms.
Wow.
Illegal possession of firearms. And they were in high school, so they were on holiday. And they were in an adult prison, which is already an injustice. It should not be the case. But there was no age assessment done, and they had been there for a really long time. And they had a cash bail assigned to them, over 100,000 each, which for most of them, that's an impossible amount to pay.
When you consider where they are coming from, where they live.
Yes.
There's no way they can raise that.
There's no way they could raise that. So when we met with them, we were trying to take their details. And my colleague and I were trying very hard not to cry, because they just looked really afraid. They looked so terrified, rightfully so. There's like a lot of violence in remand, a lot of sexual assault and abuse also in remand. Sorry, guys.
It's okay.
There's a lot of like assault and violence and sexual abuse as well in remand. And we decided to take the case. And we were like, we're determined to make sure their bail amount is paid for, so that they could get out. And we don't pay bail for 100,000.
I mean, I was like, it's beyond your threshold.
We paid 20. And so we went to court, and we were able to get their murder charges dropped. And so we had this other charge.
Illegal possession of fire.
So we got the bail amount to come down to 40,000. So it was 40,000 each from 100,000, which is good, but not 20,000. And I remember coming to the meeting and being like, I know we don't pay 40,000, but I need us to pay this bill. And I'm just really proud of my church and the organization that I'm in, because people rallied, we fundraised, and I think in maybe a day we were able to raise 40. And so there was a decision to pay the 40 first. And so we had to choose which boy to pay the 40,000 for. And it was the worst thing I've ever done, because we paid the 40 and we were able to get one of them out as my other colleagues were raising the other 40, amount. And the look of the other boy when we picked the one and left the other one in was like heartbreaking. And
because probably they provided comfort for each other.
But so we shared that, but the next day we had the other 40 and we quickly paid and everything was fine. But the consequence of that was that one of the boys was on scholarship, and his scholarship had been removed because they said it was bad behavior. He was accused of murder and possession of ammunition. So his scholarship had been taken away, and it was really difficult for them. But since then we wrote a letter. They've been back in school. Their scholarship was reinstated. They've now finished high school. One of them, I think, is applying to join the NYS. One of them is doing small jobs because still their parents cannot afford university. But it was really traumatic. They had to be brought from school to come and attend hearings. And it was really... it was crazy.
That's heartbreaking, especially when you think that the kids were innocent.
Yes.
All they did was find this,
Bullets.
unfortunately there were bullets and they turned them into necklaces.
Yeah.
Even though I find that sometimes people wear those all around the world.
Yeah.
Like you find someone with a necklace and, it's a bullet.
Yeah.
And it's incredible about that the young people were set free. Now, I'm curious to find out.
Yeah.
Is the case over?
Yes. So we did the fun things. For me, those are fun things.
Yeah.
We had to do a ballistic report. I don't know if you know what those are.
Maybe you can explain for guys who might not.
A ballistic report is just to show the number, the shell, the bullet that was found. That is even how they got away from the murder case, because the bullet in the body of the person that was killed and the bullet on their chain are not the same. So there's like an office here that does ballistic reports on bullets and stuff like that. And that bullet could be linked to whatever firearm that was used to shoot said bullet. So it's very easy to prove that someone is innocent in those ways. Yeah. So so cases like that are really cool, and now they're home and reunited with their family.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, but the consequences of that is not always that rosy. I mean, the boys had support and it's been wonderful.
Yeah.
But there's a client of ours was also accused of the same charge. He was drunk and he had a toy gun that he had bought for his nephew. So in his way home, he was really drunk. He was very rude to cops. And so they accused him of the same charge. And he had been in remand for almost 2 years. So he had been there for a really long time. But by the time he left prison, because we won the case as well, and he's now a free man, his wife had remarried, his home had been taken away.
Oh, no.
He had a motorcycle that was already sold. His business was shut down. And someone like that was really difficult to reintegrate back. And he was actually rearrested again shortly after, because he just kept in company with really difficult people. But his life had really changed from when he when he got drunk that night to 2 years later. His reality was extremely different.
Yeah.
Which, because I know it's not all marriages, but some of the marriages in low income areas are very provisional. So his wife really needed to get married again.
Yeah, she
had kids and she had to survive. So it's really difficult for someone like that. I remember there are people that when now we win the case and it's wonderful and now you're free to go home, that's like an incredible sight. I wish all of us could experience that sight. It's actually quite insane.
Yeah.
How just people reunite and you see them walking away and they're going with their family and it's incredible. But something else that's completely heartbreaking is people that have no one to receive them after they've come out of prison. And they're just they stand there with us and they're like, where do I go?
Like the street boy.
Yeah. Do I follow you? What do I do?
Wow.
Yeah. I have nowhere to be. No one has ever visited me. I don't know where anyone I love is.
Yeah.
And that one is more heartbreaking.
How do you deal with that?
We've tried to have some aftercare for them at least. It's to say we could maybe pay for your rent for a month or 2 months and try and get you a few things for you to work that out. We've partnered with social workers and chiefs and social justice centers that have been very helpful. But for the most part, it's very difficult. It's very expensive to reinstate someone back to life. But for us, I think, let me speak for myself, but for me, it's, I just talk to my friends and my parents and I cry and it's horrible. And I was like, he was just standing there on his own.
Yes.
And I remember to pray for them.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
So when you talk about criminalization of poverty, just help us understand a little bit more, because this is something I believe that you seem to be encountering a lot.
Yes.
Yes.
So our justice system is deeply flawed for many reasons. There are many players that could do more and they are not doing more.
Yeah.
And specifically, the corruption in our country has seeped through to matters like this.
Wow.
Where when you're arrested by a cop, if you cannot pay a small bribe to get out of whether you really did the offense or you didn't, you just end up in the system and in prison.
Yeah.
And so we found that we are more gracious to when you're guilty and rich than when you're poor and innocent. Like when you're guilty and rich, we treat you significantly different.
Yeah.
I mean, you're rich. You're someone in this society. Even when you walk into a police station, the air is different. But even if you're innocent but you're poor, the treatment is completely different with how we are going to like receive what you're saying. Maybe you don't speak English, you can't explain yourself very well. So you just fall into all of it because one, you're scared. Two, you don't know what to do.
Yeah.
You don't know who to call. You don't have the money to get out of it. So it is criminalization of poverty.
Yeah.
And just some of our penal code charges have not evolved. So they're still very colonial in nature.
Yeah.
Like I was sharing about a charge called preparation to commit a crime. You look like you're about to commit a crime.
Pull up. Say that again.
Preparation to commit a crime.
You can be arrested for that.
Yes, it's a criminal offense.
Ezu unaka jambaz.
You look like you're about to rob me more. So I'm so sorry, but I'm going to arrest you.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So you look like, and who looks like they're about to commit a crime?
Oh my gosh.
It's people that maybe how you're dressed.
Yeah.
Or how your hair looks like. Because there's already stereotypes. And so you fall straight into the stereotypes of someone that looks like they're about to commit a crime.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've helped like over 10 cases of people that was the charge that they were accused of. And that was a very colonial charge, actually.
Yeah.
That Black people looked like they could harm you or commit a crime just because of the stereotypes that
we've allowed that to continue to date.
Yes. So the penal code is a little bit outdated and it needs a lot of updating. So crimes like that shouldn't. Why is that still in our laws? And then the other one will be like, say, robbery with violence, where if it's more than, I guess, the stature of someone.
Yeah.
If they were big enough, tall, Black, look very strong, and you are robbed by maybe more than one person or two people or three people, it's considered robbery with violence. So those people will be accused of robbery with violence. And robbery with violence is different than robbery because of if you're sentenced, the term is really long. It's 25 years onward if it's robbery with violence.
Yeah.
So it just feels, and the people that are really big and looks quote unquote scary.
Yeah.
The stereotype falls on them from a really particular side of town. So criminalization of poverty in those ways has looked like that.
Yeah.
Because if you're walking on your own in the up sides of Nairobi, no one is stopping. Everyone thinks you're like healthy and going on a walk, right? Like there are sides of town that you're even commended for. You're just taking a nice walk.
Yeah.
But there's sides of town that's not a reality. You couldn't be taking a nice walk. You couldn't.
Yeah.
You are about to commit a crime.
Especially when you're dressed in a certain way.
Yeah. That's the assumption.
In the wrong place.
Oh my God, you're about to commit a crime.
Yeah.
And so that's just like notions and beliefs that were taught to us.
Yeah.
And that have continued and proceeded. And these are the consequences that they have, that they even inform our justice system and how that looks like.
Yeah.
And we've encountered a lot of corruption and bribery even in our courts, where maybe the prosecution or the magistrate would be like, if you give us this amount of money, we'll remove this case.
Yeah.
Which is deeply unfortunate because if they were able to pay bribe, they'll be able to pay bail. So they stay in the system, they stay in remand.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's just how it's been.
Like I'm struggling to think that, there's so many people in remand.
Yeah.
And some of these things, even the judges know. My assumption is, you're like, your cash bill is 1,000 shillings.
Yeah.
It's going to cost the state more money to have you in remand than to tell you, okay, we're going to suspend this. I might be using the wrong words.
No, that's okay.
I'm going to suspend this bail.
Yeah.
But, you need to answer to the charges that you've been accused of.
Yeah.
But you don't just send the person, continue, overloading, overcrowding, the remand prisons that we have.
Yeah.
And the other thing I'm thinking is sometimes when the judges listen to some of these charges, don't they just look and be like, honestly, hapa hivi mnacheza umse?
Some of them do. The problem is usually before you even sit before a magistrate, it takes very long.
Wow.
just because our courts are very overcrowded and our magistrates, we don't have enough magistrates. So someone would have been in prison, remand for a really long time and they've never stepped into court.
Yeah.
So they just keep waiting for there to be space and for a date to come where they'll have their day in court. So it doesn't, sometimes it's even that you've never been before a magistrate before since you're arrested. So that's difficult. And yeah, with magistrates, I guess I have been to court, obviously, and they hear like many cases per day.
Yeah.
It's very touch and go, which I don't blame them. I don't completely blame them. I blame the system. And so they don't pause. There's no time to pause and listen and like see what are we doing here today? Because it's very there are many people to attend to. Yeah. And so I understand that they're just like, you need to speak quickly. You need to explain yourself quickly. There are so many people waiting. So
I'm waiting for you to get out so I can deal with the next
so
person.
I can go. And truly, they don't stop. Like from when court starts, it's back to back. And I understand that. And there and I've been in front of magistrates that have been incredible, that have seen the clear injustice here, and they've withdrawn Ajar matters time and time again, and they've given our clients a day in court, and they've been very just. But there's also others that have been
just
clearly
frustrating.
Frustrating and unjust.
How do you guys determine, like this is the proper case to take, because I'm sure it's not easy to determine, to be like, this guy looks innocent. How do you guys get to that place?
That's always a very common question. But so when we do our prison visits, we do something called screening. So we have a one-on-one interview. Because we've done this for a really long time, we know the questions to ask you. But we don't take, obviously, the client's word to be true.
You have to dig.
We do something else after. So we have something called a perusal, where we go to the registry, we take your file, we go through your file, we read through your witness statements, the complainant statements, the arresting officer, investigating officer, and we do our own investigation. So we get in touch with the complainant, we see the evidences that are before the court. And it's very easy to some are easier than others, where there are no witnesses, the evidence, like it's very clear that this person was innocent. And there are others, to be honest, that are more difficult than to determine, and those ones take a little bit longer. So we do our own investigation. It's more clear than you would think. Like recently, just maybe a few weeks ago, we took a matter, someone that is now released, and we got their matter to be withdrawn. So they had a limp. So they limp a little bit when they walk. And around their neighborhood, there was a burglary and a robbery in a shop. And so the people that witnessed the robbery were like, oh, one of the burglars had a limp. And so the police officers were like, we know someone that lives here who has a limp. So they arrested him. They took him to remand. So we met him in remand. But then when we were going through the evidence, we saw that there was a video clip of the robbery. So we contacted the complainant and was like, I went to the police station and I told them that I know the people that stole from my shop and that they have arrested the wrong person.
Wow.
But they didn't do anything about it.
And they still insisted on arresting the wrong person.
Yes. And so we actually went to court with the complainant, the owner of the shop. And we were there from morning, and our matter was had like at 4 p.m.
Wow.
And the complainant was like, I want to withdraw the case. This is not the person that robbed my shop. And this is a clear evidence that these are the people that robbed my shop, and I have video evidence to prove it. And the magistrate was really straightforward, and he withdrew the matter and released our client.
Wow.
So stuff like that, it's like, of course this man is innocent. There's overwhelming evidence to show that he is. So it's matters like that that's like, this person is innocent. We should be helping him.
I'm just thinking about how, like, let me say that it's not all police who are bad. But sometimes you just wonder, is it the training that's wrong? What happens? Because by the time they're arresting someone, you'd think that they've done their due diligence. And actually try to apprehend the person, the perpetrator
Yes.
of the crime.
Yes.
Because some of the things that you hear, like, I'm like, honestly,
Yeah.
like the case that you just presented,
Yeah.
there was no reason why this person,
Was in
they know
remand.
that they're not the person who stole.
The complainant was at the police station. Yeah.
And they still insist on taking the wrong person.
Yeah.
Even though they know that this person's life is going to be messed up. Like, that's
Yeah.
so heartbreaking in so many ways.
Yeah.
And then, like, now I remember one time you were sharing in church and you talked about how you're just coming to testify, give a great testimony about how you had represented these guys.
Yeah.
They were found in a pub.
Yeah.
Enjoying their drinks.
Yeah.
And then they're rounded up by the cops.
Yeah.
And they're charged with something to do with
electricity.
I'm like,
yeah.
How?
I know. Yeah, because they were having a drink and they were charged with like illegal connection of electricity.
Yes.
So
it's not there.
They don't own the pub.
They've just gone to
They don't know
drinks.
the owner of the pub.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they were just rounded up. I think it speaks to just like the state of our nation, right? Like there's like a little bit of laziness. I don't know if it's laziness or it's the carelessness of people's lives, right? Where you don't think it through, you don't care about others. And there's like this like posture of selfishness.
Yeah.
Where you only think about yourself and the people around you, like closest to you who you benefit from.
Yeah.
And so when you don't benefit from these people, if you like you need to hit a target of these are the number of people I arrested this week. So you just sort of like round anyone up.
You actually wonder, do they have that?
Yeah, I think so. From what I've heard, that they need to hit a certain target. And so these people become numbers and targets to you and not so much people. And so because that is your mentality, then how you treat them, it influences then how you're treating them. So you don't treat them as people. You treat them as like a means to an end.
Yeah.
Right? And you just like move in this really selfish way that doesn't consider others. But then I think it's sometimes because maybe they're not considered either by their own government, by their own leaders. And so it just like sort of like trickles down to then this is how they act.
Yeah.
And that's not to excuse their behavior because they're treated badly, therefore they should treat others badly.
And I'm pretty sure that that's not the training they get.
Yeah. But it's like it's a flawed system. Therefore it produces really flawed results.
Yeah.
And so like those guys they're now free.
Yeah.
But they were accused of illegal connection of electricity in a pub that they do not own. And it made no sense. We paid for their bail, we represented them in court, and they were released. They were just drinking.
I mean, sometimes you wonder how the judge.
They went to the pub on the wrong day.
Oh my gosh. Do you ever get frustrated? Because
all the time.
It's got to weigh a toll. It's got to take a toll on you because
it did. Maybe like a year ago, it really took a toll on me, and I was like, I think I'm done. I think I'm tired of fighting. It feels like I'm moping the ocean. Like it feels like I'm doing a lot of nothing.
That's such an incredible analogy.
Yeah.
It's like you're moping an ocean.
Yeah, it feels like nothing is moving.
That's so unfair.
And it feels like very repetitive, and I'm like, there's nothing we're doing. Also, I think with this work, like there's other things that are around it, like fundraising, partnerships, and all of it was really, really difficult. And I don't know if we mentioned, but our work is really motivated by our faith. And so I remember I was like thinking about it, and I had even spoken to Chris, and I was like, I think I'm weary. I'm tired. I'm tired of the fight.
Yeah.
I just want to be in an office drafting contracts. Like I'm done. And
you could make some moolah in the process.
I'm really tired. And I think I was like on my way back home, and I think I was praying, and I was telling the Lord, like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I had a sense that he was saying that those people in remand bear my image. Like when you look at them, you see me. Because I was telling him also, like, I don't see you in remand. I feel like you're not helping us. I feel like you're not helping them. I don't know what you're doing. And he was like, no, every time they sit in front of you, that is like an image bearer. Who is the person you're looking at? You're looking at me. And it's even clear, I came to find out it's also in the Bible when it says, when I was in prison, you did not visit me.
Yeah.
Right? There's a verse that says that. And he was just like,
Ooh.
And Jesus was, I think Jesus is very particular in the examples he uses.
Yeah.
He doesn't mince his words.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't like use parables or stories or mention people by chance.
Yeah.
I think he knows what he's saying. He would have said, if you were, when I was in hospital, you didn't visit, not to say anything about sick people, but he specifically said, when I was in prison, you did not visit me.
Yeah.
And I think he sees them and he knows them. And I just had like this sense that they're his bride. They're the children of God.
Yeah.
And they're my brothers. And we were created by the same Father.
Yeah.
And like this realization was like life-changing for me.
Yeah.
And so every time I go to prison, I get really excited that I get to see him 20 times. Like if I interview 20 people, I've seen him 20 times a day.
Yeah.
And like when I saw them that way, it completely changed me. That they're image bearers, that they are the bride of Christ, that he is coming back for them.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it just like, it really impacted me and gave me a lot of strength.
It's like just when you're feeling down and out and then the Lord checks in and he's like, okay, have you considered?
Yeah.
You know, and even now as you're talking, I'm just thinking about when those people, when our brothers and sisters are wrongfully accused and in a place and they're like, God, please remember me in this space.
Yeah.
That you being there.
Yeah.
That they're like,
answered
God,
prayer.
Thank you.
Yeah. And actually, I think being an Ajar client is really miraculous. So there's no system to determine who will sit in front of me.
Wow.
Or in front of my colleague when we go.
So you don't go and choose a team?
No.
Wow.
It's you fight for that chair. So the chair is set and they're all sitting in like, it's a bit contained, but it's just a crowd of people. And when that chair is not empty for longer than a second, and people run to sit to the chair.
Oh,
they
man.
They are fighting to sit to the chair.
Yeah.
So it's miraculous that you sat on that chair. That it was by chance.
Yeah. It almost makes me think of music. You know how we play musical chairs?
Yeah, it's exactly like musical chairs. That's a perfect analogy. And so anyone that sits there, I'm always like, the Lord has visited you.
Yeah.
It's incredible because you will not pay 1 shilling. You will be represented. Your bail will probably be paid for. Gosh. You'll be reunited with your family. It feels very miraculous.
Yeah.
For them and for us. Because there's no preparation. I don't know who I'll meet. I don't know what story I'll hear.
Yeah.
And it's just sort of like that.
Sorry, I have these things now as you're talking about that they have to fight for this chair.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about, remember how Jesus one time went to the temple and he went into this temple and there was this stream. I don't know if it was a stream or there were waters, and everyone was there waiting to jump in, and they were just waiting for the water to be stirred, and the first person who jumped in would get healed.
Yeah.
Like it feels like it's that kind of a thing where you have all these people who are waiting to have someone represent them. Yeah. And so you've come to stir up the water.
Yeah, I know. And to be like, please come. Yeah. And it feels that way. And I think our work is miraculous in many, many ways. We have like an amazing prayer team that prays for us. Yeah. And sometimes we just write in the prayer group, like, guys, we're having a difficult magistrate. Like this magistrate is like killing us. And all the prosecution is like, it's terrible. And we don't know what's going on. We don't know what's going on. And people would start praying. And like, it will be like a complete change of like the situation will completely change. Wow. And it just like reminds me how Jesus like deeply cares for everyone. 'Cause sometimes it feels like, I don't know, it just feels like he doesn't care for them. Yeah. Just in the way their lives have turned out. And that's not true. He deeply, deeply cares for them. Yeah. And what a privilege to be partnered with him in that way. Yeah.
People could be hearing you sharing about this incredible work that you guys are doing with Ajar. Yeah. Please help us understand how many people are working in Ajar.
This is always the fun question. How many people are working? So it's just the two of us.
Just the two of us.
It's just myself and my other colleague.
Oh, 2 people.
2 people. Especially this year. It's most of the time it's 2 people. Yeah. We have an amazing board and people that like facilitate our fundraising and partnership and stuff like that. But for the work on the ground, it's just 2 people, which is, I know, it is incredible that 2 people are working. Like for instance, this year, we've been able to get 15 people out of prison.
Yeah.
Just two of us.
Oh my gosh.
And all the time we're like, we need more people. But that costs money.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's just the two of us.
So on average, first let me first big you guys up, because you're 2 people and you fought for the freedom of 15 people who are probably hopeless.
Yeah.
And just wondering who will come through for us. So that's incredible.
Yeah.
On average, how long does it take you guys?
Oh my God.
By the time you've picked up the case of somebody who's wrongfully accused to the end. Yeah.
It takes 7 months to 2 years. So it's a very dragged out, long process. It requires a lot of patience. I wish it was faster. It's just not. The dates are not enough. The courts are not enough. The magistrates are not enough.
Yeah.
It just takes a really long time. That's why I'm really grateful for our bail fund, because you're able to be outside
as your
case
continues.
Yeah.
And that's a long time for you guys to be able to wait for this.
Yeah.
And so if people want, if guys want to contribute towards Ajar and the work that you guys are doing, I think that there are several things that guys can do.
Yeah.
First, I do believe that we have some lawyers who are watching or listening to this podcast.
Yes. So we coined a very lovely phrase for our volunteers. We call them justice heroes.
Yes. You should do justice heroes and justice shearers.
Okay.
Anyway, that's just my 2 cents. Very deep.
Justice heroes and justice shearers. And so if you are an advocate and you have time on your hands and you want to pick a case and see it through, you're welcome to do that.
Yeah.
We have a prayer team, like I mentioned. If you want to join us in prayer, like I have seen prayer change the situation of a case.
Yeah.
And it's been incredible. I don't know why every time prayer works, people are really surprised. I constantly am surprised that prayer works.
Is it maybe because you're seeing the impossibility of what you're facing?
I don't know. Like every time someone is like, we should pray for this case, I'm like, okay. And then when it actually changes things, I'm like, oh my God, it worked. I'm always so surprised. As a believer, I don't know. And then obviously with giving, right? This work requires money for our prison visits, for salaries, for bail, how we pay the bail fund.
Yeah.
It requires money. And so if anyone wants to give, we have a website, Ajar, ajarkenya.com.
Yeah.
We have Instagram, Ajar Kenya. And you can reach out and see what best suits you to do that.
Yeah.
But even like engaging with our content, just supporting us, giving us encouragement, praying for these children of God, just praying for them.
Yeah.
It's such a terrible place to be in. Like the living conditions of remand are horrible. Like there are no enough mattresses. They sleep on the concrete floor. They don't have blankets.
Yeah.
They don't have a change of clothes. Like it's terrible. It's a terrible place to live in. And larger and in bigger ways, like change of policy. If you can invite us to conversations that are changing the way the judicial is dealing with criminal matters, that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
I think we've been fortunate this year. We've been in rooms that hopefully will drive the conversation forward. I was in a summit called the Health Summit. I was had a privilege of sitting in a panel with Chief Justice, Honorable Martha Koome. And if we're in rooms like that, I think it helps us so that we are not forever in this cycle. I want to be out of a job.
Yeah.
I actually want to be out of a job. I want there to be a system that works, remandees that are fairly represented. I don't want to do this forever. I want it to come to a place when this was like a thing and now it's not.
Yes.
Yeah.
What's like now for you personally? What are some of those challenges that you face when you go into
prison?
Yeah. Or in the space that you're in?
Yeah.
Yeah.
First of all, I remember the first time I went to prison. I wasn't wearing a short dress, but I was wearing a dress. And there's a place just at the entrance of prison that if you're a lady, if you're showing your arms or showing your legs, you rent a leso. It's 10 bob to rent a leso. to go into prison.
Oh.
And I was wrapped up in my lasso. I did not understand the dress code.
There's some churches that are doing that as well.
Oh my God, they're giving very prison energy. But yeah, so I don't want to say like being a woman in this industry is difficult, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
Right? And we represent 99.9% of people we represent are men. So we work with primarily men, actually. We don't work with a lot of women. And that's very intentional. Just like no one thinks about men.
Yeah. That's very commendable, actually.
Yeah. And everyone just automatically assumes that men are guilty.
Yeah.
Immediately. Which is another conversation. But yeah, the difficulty with that is that just like people don't take, let me say, me seriously when I'm in court. They're like, so where is your boss? Is he coming? I'm like, no.
I was gonna say they look down on you because they're like,
I'm like, this is it.
She's just 20. She looks like she's 21, and what does she even know?
They're like, you're the one who they sent. I'm like, yeah, it's just me. Yeah, and that happens, I think, with like wardens, with magistrates, with not so much with clients. Clients would take anyone that's helping them. They really don't care. Yeah, so that's interesting. And also, as an organization that is motivated by faith, it actually creates barriers for us, especially with fundraising. Prosperity Gospel has ruined fundraising for Christian organizations, I just have to say.
How tough for that?
Everyone just doesn't want to give money to anyone that's associated with Jesus. They just think it's not real. But
even though the work that you guys are doing is incredible, I mean,
like, but you said
you're a Christian organization.
Oh no.
Yeah, we don't associate with Christian religious organizations.
Please, Christians, please continue. Please, don't ruin our reputation. It's affecting more than you think.
Oh, let's say this, guys, you're a Christian and you're watching this. This is work you're supposed to be supporting.
Yeah.
This is your way of doing that prison visit.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. These are your brothers.
Yes.
You're mandated to do that. Jesus is asking you to do that. He's asking you to partner with him in those ways. Because I think I think the message currently in Christian spaces is very, like we've been encouraged to look at our lives like a microscope. So you only look at yourself. Every detail of your life is your prayer request is full of yourself, right? You're constantly looking through your life through that lens of a microscope. And I think the invitation that Jesus is constantly giving is to like telescope, very zoom out of yourself, very like look at the stars, look at everyone around you, very like seek first the kingdom, then other things will be added unto you. It's never really concentrate on your well-being and yourself, and then I will answer the prayers of like you're just self.
Yeah.
And I think Jesus is inviting us to look at others, look around you.
Yeah.
And you will find him.
Yeah.
Like the beautiful thing about him is that he's a reward everywhere. And especially in places that he cares about. Like I think my biggest lessons about myself and about Jesus have been with the work that I do. Like I meet him in those ways and it changes me.
Yeah.
Like he's more real to me in prison than he is, I guess, in church. Just like when I sit with a wife or a mother of a son, that's like, I walked all the way here to come to court because I didn't have fare to come see my son.
Yeah.
And smiling.
Yeah.
Just like so happy about like that they've met us, and they're like, look at God, he's answered my prayer.
Man.
And it just you're just like, this is the gospel. I don't know, it's like it's so life-changing.
Yeah.
And when you hear a wife saying like, I knew it, like there was this wife who was telling me, kept smiling when we were with her in court paying bail for her husband. And she was like, I knew my God would come through. I knew it. Amen. Thank you. Thank you, Lord, for this answer. It's like, I knew my husband was innocent and I didn't have money to pay for his bail, but I knew God is faithful. And here he is, he's done it.
Yeah.
And it's just like insane.
Yeah.
Like what it does to your faith. So I would encourage you to zoom out, ask God what he's inviting you into.
Yeah.
It could be Ajar, it could not be. But ask him to break your heart for what breaks his. Involve him in your money. Ask him, where do you want him to give it to? We have like consistent donors that give even like 2,000 bob a month, 1,000 bob a month. They're just like, I've committed to do that. And it's incredible.
And when you consider, it looks like it's a small amount, but there are people who are struggling.
Yes.
And they cannot be able to meet that bill.
Yes.
Of 500 shillings for their cash bail.
Yeah. Like it takes 30,000 shillings to get someone from bail to the end.
Yes.
So it's 30,000 per person. Which
there's some guys, that's like nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a significant amount, but there are many people who can be able to meet that cost.
Yeah.
Just like that.
Yeah.
As a young leader.
Yeah.
What draws you inspiration in the work that you're doing? And also for other young people who, I mean, you're 30 and you're so young to be doing such a. No, I think, let me not say that. I should not be surprised because you are the right person for doing the work that you're doing.
Thank you.
And I'm glad that you're young and you're able to pour your life into it. But what would you tell someone, who is a young leader and getting frustrated, because you've gone through that.
Yeah.
And at the point where they're like, kitu ikai maze.
Yes.
What's the point?
I would say that, I would actually say something that would feel contrary to what I'm saying. This is not why the Lord loves you. You doing good works is never the reason why He cares for you. He is doing a magnificent work in the world. And for whatever reason, there's an invitation for you to do it with Him.
Yeah.
And I would only want you to do it from the overflow of how deeply loved you are. That for myself, I have experienced freedom from things that have held me bound for a really long time. Some have been my fault and some haven't. And Jesus gave me freedom. He gave it to me.
Yeah.
And I live in it. And from that place and only from that place do I ever want to serve from that. And I cannot share it or express it or invite people into it if I haven't experienced it myself. So I would say, love Him with all your heart. I think that's the beginning place. Wow. Love Him with all your heart. And I promise you, you will not be able to look at anything that is happening in the world and not want to do anything about it. Like you cannot start from, I want to do something about it.
Yeah.
And then it has to start from this like incredible knowledge of what He did for you.
Yeah.
And only from that place is there longevity and sustenance. And you will do it for the right reasons.
Yeah.
Because this work can feel very like, wow, what an incredible person you are.
Yeah.
Wow, you're doing all these things.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, it's not me. I'm not qualified to do it.
You're very aware about.
I'm very aware of my brokenness, right? And even with my school, like even I think when I was in law school, I failed many tests. Like law school, I failed. I wasn't like good at the exam. A couple of exams actually. And I wrestled with it. I'm like, then how am I the one here? How am I in charge of people's lives? And very gently, the Lord corrected me and was like, you're not. You're not the one.
Yourself,
You're not the one. It's because you're sat with me and because of the work that I'm doing in you that you're doing it. It has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
And it's humbling, but it's like honestly, I'm so glad it's not me.
Yeah.
Because I would do it from a sense of pride and insecurity, and I would need validation and all these things. But when I remember that it is a partnership and we are co-creators and co-heirs, this is an invitation. Like Jesus wants all of us to live in this freedom that He died for, including people in prison and including people in the children's home or wherever you feel called to. And so I would encourage you to stay in Him, completely rooted in His love for you. And you will not exist in the world. If you know Jesus' heart, you will know what breaks His. Like if you love Him so much, you will love what He loves. And He loves people. He died for people. He did not die for projects and things and marketing and whatever.
You can say that again. Churches need to hear this.
He didn't die for your programs. Like that's not who He died for. Like He was bruised, crucified, resurrected because He loves His people. And if you love God and you know how loved you are by him, you will love his people.
Actually, there's as you say this, and I don't know if this is unfair, but sometimes I feel as though churches are focused on the wrong things.
Yeah.
Where we think that by putting up these massive structures and buildings that will cost us almost $1 billion shillings is what we need to do.
Yeah.
When we can do so much good in the community.
Yes.
And help set people free. Whether it's freedom from captivity, where the guys are wrongfully incarcerated, or just doing life together with people so they're set free from the things that have them bound.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm really proud of my church because this organization was founded by my church.
And we're not many.
Yeah, and we're not many. Renewal Church Nairobi. And I'm really proud of Chris Arnold, who like started this movement. And of everyone that has worked in Ajar, made such a difference. Gilbert, Wamboi, Ken, myself. Like I've worked with really incredible people in this work.
Yeah.
And because of them is like even why we're here. And the Jesus was very like the turning of the tables and stuff. He was
a DJ.
Yeah, it was like, what are we doing? And it was because like they were selling because if you needed if you needed to be in the presence of the Lord or you needed your sins forgiven, you had to buy a certain lamb or thing to take sacrifice, whatever. That's usually the story. And because people were traveling far and wide to come to Jerusalem, they couldn't come with the lamb without blemish. So they were selling them at really high costs. And I think that he was really angry that we were creating barriers to get to him.
Yes.
And that's why he was flipping the table.
It was an injustice.
Yeah, it was injustice.
Yeah.
Like God cares about justice. It says justice and righteousness are at the foot of his throne. And so he was flipping tables being like, this is not fair. This is not just.
Yeah.
These people should be able to come to me in the easiest way possible. And this obviously he was so angry about us being away from him that he gave us the Holy Spirit and he died and was like, I'm even going to make it really easy.
Yeah.
That I will dwell in you. That you don't need the big building and the pastor and the whatever.
Yes.
And even now, I think he's saying that about justice. He's like, I want justice to flow like a river.
Yeah.
Like for it to be experienced. And I think he really cares about it.
I love that.
Yeah.
How do you make sure that you do not get caught up in the lives of those of your clients? Because you are so like every case, I almost feel it's like every case for you is like it's personal.
Yeah.
Because they just cannot be a client.
Yeah, and yeah, that's true. I actually found out that when I started, I trusted people and I gave them my personal number in prison, and I found out that my number is being sold. Like there's a business.
Oh my gosh! Hey, you mean they could plug? Yeah.
Anyway, that was not healthy for me. I didn't have wonderful work boundaries, but I'm really intentionally.
I'm sorry. Your number was being sold.
Yeah. I had calls like at 3 a.m.
Oh.
And I'm really intentionally plugged into a wonderful community. Like I have people that I was actually telling my friend this recently that I felt like I don't do confession of sins often enough. It's not talked about often enough. And so I have a good group of friends that I confess my sins to, and they hold me accountable. And
what kind of sins are you confessing?
Bad ones.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that art is lost, the confession of sins for one another, without saying I'm struggling. Not that. They're like struggling with words. You're like, oh no. I'm having a hard week. What does that mean?
Yeah. Be more specific.
Yeah. If it's like and you walk with people and they call you out.
Yeah.
They pray for you and they cover you and they forgive you and they love you and they like sort of like just encourage you to do that. And I'm grateful for my family. I'm very close with my family as well. Yeah. And my church. I love that I'm plugged into a local church, a local community that I love and serve there. And I think that's really important to do that, that all of it is important, right?
Yeah.
The work that I do, my Sabbath is important.
Yeah.
my rhythms and my rules of life are important.
Yeah.
I tried to have a weekly Sabbath. I tried to live in community. I tried to have silence and solitude. I tried to live simply, where I'm not living simply has helped because it encourages contentment and gratitude, where I would like to have a job that pays me more, but I'm learning to be content. To God, this is where God would have me, where I have more than I need, I have enough. And so those rules of life that I put parameters that help me stay grounded.
I am absolutely so happy to have had this podcast with you.
Oh my God, thank you so much.
This has been so enriching in so many ways. And I know it may feel as though you are mopping the ocean.
Constantly.
Yeah. But you are making a significant difference.
Thank you.
In the life of everyone inmate.
Yeah.
Person who's being wrongfully remanded.
Yeah.
And is set free, you're making a significant impact in their lives. And for me, it's a great, like I'm so happy in so many ways, just and fulfilled in so many ways that you're doing what it is that you're doing. And I want to encourage you to keep doing it.
Thank you so much.
And I know it may not be easy.
Yeah.
Even though sometimes it feels as though the justice system, it's like it's against the people it's supposed to be protecting.
Yeah.
If I was the president, I would elect you, Yani, to be in a position of influence where you can be able to bring about the change that's needed here. Because you're doing it for nothing. It's not for the pay. If it was for the pay, you'd have left a long time ago.
Yeah.
But you've committed yourself to do this. So I want to say thank you so much for joining.
Oh my God, thank you so much. I also want to say Moz has been incredible with the work of Ajar. I don't know if you remember, Moz DJ'd for a fundraising event for free. We had an 80s bash.
Yeah.
And you DJ'd for us for free as we were raising funds for that.
I loved it.
You even wore a wig. Should I say that?
That was my hair.
That was his hair, guys. Sorry.
I bought it.
He bought the wig and it was and that night we raised like a significant amount. So thank you for your support.
We need to do more.
Yeah, even this is incredible, getting our word out. This is wonderful that you're doing this.
I love it.
I'm always so impressed by people that tell stories because I think it's a very Jesus thing to do. He loved stories.
Yeah.
He told parables.
Yeah.
That's how he taught.
Yes.
And I think anyone that tells stories of others and of themselves is very Christ-like. And what an incredible thing to be a part of.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
I deeply appreciate it. And I'm ready to do much more than I'm doing.
Yeah.
So whenever you need, just give me a holler. If you need me to put up a post, I'll gladly do it.
Yeah. And like your family, impressive. Even, I don't know if I can share this, but your wife,
You can go ahead.
Debs, has helped me. I've sat with Debs before being like, how do I fundraise? Where do I get money from? And she's like, this is how you do it. And this is how you do it. And so your family has been incredibly impactful in the work of Ajar. Your kids have baked cakes for our bake sales. Like it's the whole family has stood with us, and it's been amazing. Thank you so much.
You are doing an incredible job, and
yeah,
it's the least we can do, and I think we can do much more.
Yeah.
But thank you so much. This has been such a good conversation.
Thank you for having me.
And guys, I hope that you've enjoyed the podcast today. I would have gone on with Waizeh, just for her to give you more stories of incredible clients that she's had who have been set free. But if you want to find out more about Ajar, please do look out their website. The details are here. I would like to encourage you as well to go ahead and support Ajar Tafadhali, because every shilling that you give goes a long way towards helping someone in remand. And also, let me say that we do need more. When Jesus Christ says that that the harvest is plenty and the laborers are few. Sometimes we always look at that from a place of evangelism, but then also think about for people who are longing for justice, guys who are longing for freedom, that there are so many of them who are wrongfully remanded. And I say there are only two laborers working in Ajar, and God is saying there's so many people who are waiting to be set free, but we need more lawyers working into this space. And so I want to challenge guys who are probably in the legal field, if you have time, please commit at least one day of your week or just a few hours that you can be able to commit towards Ajar and go ahead and work towards getting our brothers and sisters set free. The guys who are praying and asking for liberation, and you can actively take part in this. Now, also for people who are in the Justice League, basically, that God has placed you in a place you can be able to bring about change. you're a cop who's watching this podcast or listening to this podcast, or you're a judge, if you can be able to start changing the systems that are wrongfully putting our people incarcerated, tafadhali, bring about that change. I remember one time when John the Baptist was talking to, he was teaching when he was out in the wilderness, and some cops came to him and he told them, listen, do not accuse someone wrongfully. He was so straight up with them. He told them, do not accuse someone wrongfully for something that they have not done. Do the right thing, tafadhali, sindio? Because that bad decision you make affects not just that one person, but actually an entire family. This has been a great podcast as I've been hanging out with Waizeh. This has been good. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was an honor.
No, karibu sana.
Yeah.
Guys, if you like the conversations, go ahead, like, subscribe, share tafadhali together with your friends and your loved ones and your enemies as well, kama kawaida. We love you so much. Peace and God bless.